Who's under your carbon footprint? Using too much energy, driving bigger cars, heating bigger houses, using more hot water. It all means more greenhouse gases and a bigger carbon footprint. And that means adding to the problem of climate change. More heat, more droughts, more floods, more storms, more joblessness. So who's getting stepped on? Who is under your carbon footprint?
It is the poor who most directly bear the brunt of environmental degradation.
And the longer we wait to curb our use of fossil fuels, our footprint gets a little heavier and a little deeper.
Coming changes will affect all aspects of the environment, especially for the poor and the vulnerable.
When we demand bigger, better, and more, the world's vulnerable get poorer, hungrier, and less.
Environmental degradation makes the life of the poor especially unbearable.
In Scripture, Matthew reminds us that ultimately we will be judged by how we treat the least among us.
Just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me.
As Catholics, we have a moral obligation to care for the poor and the most vulnerable. But today, too often, we are wasting God's gifts, abusing the planet, changing the climate, and leaving too many with too little for full human development.
There is new and stronger evidence that most of the warming over the last 50 years is attributed to human activities.
Now, prudence demands action.
Inaction and inadequate responses will likely place even greater burdens on poor peoples.
As Catholics, in the face of climate change, we can recommit to what we already do well by reaching out to the most vulnerable here and around the world, by renewing our Catholic commitment to care for God's creation, by living our faith, by treading more lightly, and acting more boldly. We can care for creation and the poor. As St. Francis reminds us,
Praise be you, my Lord, through our sister Mother Earth, who sustains and governs us.
as Catholics, we can live up to our obligation to be in solidarity with the poor by understanding the consequences of every step we take and choosing wisely, by consuming less, by conserving more, by advocating on behalf of those without a voice. Join Catholics already making a difference through our parishes and schools, within our families and dioceses, as individuals and Catholic institutions. Take the St. Francis Pledge to care for creation and the poor, and register your commitment at CatholicClimateCovenant.org. Who's under your carbon footprint? It is those who we are most obligated to protect. For them, your faith is the beginning of hope.
Our Earth speaks to us, and we must listen if we want to survive.
Take a step in the right direction.
At its core, global climate change is not simply about economic theory or political reforms, nor about partisan advantage or interest group pressures. Rather, global climate change is about the future of God's creation and the one human family. It is about protecting both the human environment and the natural environment. It is about our human stewardship of God's creation and our responsibility to those who come after us.